I'm 82 years old. If you searched my name online, you wouldn't find a damn thing. No awards, no company, no biography written about my life. I rent a rusted 1974 Airstream trailer parked behind a diner somewhere out in New Mexico. My total net worth, if you count the loose coins rattling around in my trucks. Ashtray is about $42. I don't own land. I don't have a retirement account. I have never managed anybody in my entire life. And by almost every standard this world uses to measure a man, I am a complete and total failure. And yet somehow I'm the happiest man you will ever meet. Now I already know what some of you are thinking while listening to me talk. You look at someone like me and feel a little sorry for him. You assume somewhere along the line I must have taken a wrong turn and failed to make something meaningful out of my life. But that isn't what happened at all. I didn't fail by accident. I failed on purpose. And today I'm going to tell you something the people running this world are absolutely terrified of you discovering for yourself. I'm going to tell you why becoming what society calls a loser might actually be the only way to survive this life with your soul still intact by the end of it. Let me take you all the way back to 1961. I was 22 years old with a full scholarship to Yale Law School. Top of my class. Professors called me brilliant. My parents thought I was destined for greatness. First day of orientation, I walked into that giant Gothic building surrounded by boys wearing polished shoes and expensive tailored suits. From the outside, it looked like success already waiting for us. But when I looked into their eyes, I didn't see confidence or ambition. I saw fear, pure fear. Fear of not becoming number one. Fear of disappointing their fathers. Fear of falling behind before the race had even truly begun. And 14 minutes into orientation, sitting there surrounded by all that pressure, I realized something that changed the direction of my life forever. If I stayed in that chair, I would spend the rest of my existence renting myself out to people who would never care whether I lived or died. So I stood up quietly, walked out of the room, took off my tie and threw it into a public trash can outside the building. Then I hitchhiked all the way to California without looking back once. My parents didn't speak to me for almost 10 years after that decision. They told everybody I had thrown my future away, but I didn't throw my future away at all. I saved it. I spent the next 60 years bartending in beach towns, flipping burgers, repairing fishing docks, and playing banjo on street corners for tourists who barely stopped long enough to listen. I made just enough money to pay rent, buy dinner, and drink a cheap beer while watching the sunset at the end of the day. But every morning I woke up knowing one thing with absolute certainty. My time belonged to me, and I'm telling you right now that freedom is worth more than every corner office in Manhattan combined. There was a young man at Yale named Richard, smartest person I ever met in my life. Richard stayed behind and played the game exactly the way society told him to. Corporate law, millions of dollars, mansion in Connecticut, summer house in the Hamptons, luxury cars, perfect private schools for his children. Society called Richard a winner. At 52 years old, Richard collapsed dead on the floor of his office from a stress-induced heart attack. His wife had already left him years earlier. His children barely cried during the funeral because they barely knew the man personally. He traded his entire existence for status symbols and applause from strangers who forgot him almost immediately after he died. Then they buried him wearing an expensive suit. So let me ask you something honestly. Who really lost in the end? Society has sold all of you a dangerous lie about wealth. They tell you wealth means accumulation, more money, more possessions, bigger houses, better cars, more impressive lifestyles. But possessions are heavy whether people admit it or not. A giant house ends up owning you more than you own it. You spend your entire life maintaining it, repairing it, insuring it, cleaning it, and stressing about paying for it. People stay wrapped inside jobs they hate simply to afford things they're too exhausted to actually enjoy. That isn't freedom. That's sophisticated slavery dressed up in nicer clothing. I live in a tin can out in the desert. If I get tired of the scenery, I hook it to my truck and drive somewhere else. That's it. Simple. When you own very little, life becomes incredibly light to carry. I call it the empty backpack theory. Imagine two men climbing a mountain together. One carries a backpack stuffed full of gold bricks. The other carries only water and a sandwich for the journey. Which man notices the birds flying overhead? Which man actually enjoys the fresh air? Which one reaches the top still smiling instead of collapsing from exhaustion? I dropped the gold back in 1961, and I've been breathing freely ever since that day. But what worries me now is your generation, because your burden is even worse than ours ever was. At least we only dealt with pressure from parents and neighbors. You carry an entire digital machine inside your pocket designed to make you feel inadequate constantly. Every time you open your phone, somebody out there is richer than you, younger than you, more attractive than you, more successful than you, more optimized than you. You've got influencers teaching people how to turn themselves into productivity robots, wake up at 4 in the morning, take ice baths, track your sleep, optimize your dopamine, build your personal brand online, personal branding. God help me, what a depressing phrase that is. You are not a product sitting on a supermarket shelf waiting to be marketed properly. You are a human being, and yet modern culture teaches you to treat your life like a corporation requiring constant optimization and upgrades. Nobody asks anymore whether they're happy inside. They ask whether they're maximizing their potential. That's insanity. You are turning your entire existence into one endless performance review. You keep sprinting on treadmills, terrified of slowing down, because the moment you stop running, you might finally have to ask yourself whether any of this actually matters in the first place. So let me tell you what real wealth actually looks like from the perspective of an old man who walked away from the race a very long time ago. Real wealth is waking up on a Monday morning without dread sitting heavy in your chest. Real wealth is having enough time to sit beneath a tree and read a book for 3 hours without feeling guilty about it afterward. Real wealth is being able to watch rain hit the window without wondering how to monetize the experience somehow. Real wealth is ownership over your own attention, and attention is the one thing this world is trying hardest to steal away from you every second of every day. Failure, meanwhile, is just a label society places onto people it cannot control anymore. When you stop caring about status, people lose power over you. When you stop chasing approval, manipulation stops working completely. And when you have absolutely nothing left to prove to anybody else, fear slowly starts disappearing from your life altogether. That's why people who opt out of the system make society deeply uncomfortable, because your freedom reminds them they probably had a choice too, and maybe they chose wrong. So here's the gift I want to leave you with today. Permission. Permission to stop chasing endlessly. Permission to disappoint people. Permission to walk away from a life that looks impressive from the outside but feels spiritually empty inside your chest every morning. If that high-paying job poisons your soul every Sunday night, leave it behind. If your dream life is a tiny apartment near the ocean where nobody knows your name, go there. If you'd rather work at a hardware store and paint watercolors on weekends than spend 30 years slowly dying inside corporate meetings, then do exactly that without apologizing. People will call you irresponsible, immature, a loser. Let them talk. Let them keep the office badge and the blood pressure medication. Let them win the race they're all killing themselves to finish first. You choose peace instead. Because one day, every single person you are exhausting yourself trying to impress will be gone forever. Every opinion, every leaderboard, every performance review, dust. And when that day finally comes, the only thing that will matter is whether your life actually felt like your own while you were living it. I'm sitting here inside a rusted trailer in the middle of the desert, 82 years old with almost nothing attached to my name, and I'm telling you honestly from the bottom of my heart, the view from down here is spectacular.